Hi, I'm JoeNavaro, and welcome to People Watching. Today, I want to talk about the body language of leadership. Now, in the past, I've talked about body language in different settings, in dating, courtship, in business, and so forth. But there's something unique and interesting about the body language of leadership around the world. So I want to talk about what it is that great leaders all share, that we can learn from. I certainly have learned from great leaders. And the first one I want to talk about, and they're not in any particular order, is leaders tend to be calm. When things are hectic, when things are getting out of control, one of the things that I've always admired about the leaders that I have had were individuals who, even though they're walking into a room and things are quite the mess, they seem to have a calm around them. And I think it's inherent that being upset, yelling and screaming, waving your arms, acting disrespectful and so forth, does nothing either to solve the problem or to gain the support of people. I admire calm people. We gravitate towards people that are calm. And so this is one of the things that I looked at when I wrote the book, Be Exceptional, is that exceptional individuals, especially leaders, tend to value the power of being calm, of dealing with their emotions so that the emotions are checked. Yes, things are bad. Yes, they may be upset. Yes, they may be angry. But they control that so that they can deal with the situation at hand. And certainly in an operating room, you want that physician to be calm. As a police officer, it was rewarding and refreshing to see police officers who could come in and rather than escalate the emotions that were going on, they could have a calming effect. So if you are in a leadership position, if you're thinking about your future, one of the things you want to begin to think about is, how do I do that? How do I remain calm when no one else is calm? How do I control my emotions? And it's, for some people, it comes naturally. For others, it's something that you have to work on. And you have to tell yourself, as a leader, everyone's looking at me. As a leader, everybody's going to feel my energy. It's almost like when you're walking a dog. A dog always feels your energy. And if you're nervous, if you're jittery and so forth, a dog will sense that. Well, people sense that too. Course is reciprocated. One of the things that I admired about one of the leaders I had in the FBI is that he didn't have a smile like this, but he always had this very pleasant appearance, and it was just a very slight, relaxed face, a slight smile. And, he'd walk into the room and, this was in a time in the 1980s where we'd had bombings, we'd had agents attacked, we had a number of things happen. And he'd come in and sort of just, all right, everybody, relax a little bit. We don't need to be on edge. And that soft smile took the edge off what was often very tense situations. But we needed to have someone who could have that slight smile, so we weren't taking everything so serious to the point that we were on tilt. And a lot of great leaders come in and walk in with confidence, which obviously is another great trait, and they have the ability to smile and to engage in a very social way, even though things may be stressed. And speaking of confidence, confidence isn't about, strutting in, throwing your chest out and so forth. Confidence is about calmly walking in, making eye contact, directing your attention to everyone, engaging everyone, even if just visually, but having that assurance that, number one, you're willing to listen. Number two, realizing you may not have all the answers, but the answers are amongst the people that are with you. Talk. I often mention Colin Powell, General Colin Powell, and later Secretary Powell, who would walk on a stage and he just had this command presence. He wouldn't even have to talk. And you felt that. And the best leaders have that ability. Their movements are very smooth. Their gestures are also very smooth. There's nothing jittery about them. And they begin to connect with us. This is what we want from a leader because of how calm they are. The other thing that I would suggest is that, not forget that a leader has to connect with everyone. And that also means sometimes people that don't agree with you. And so having a pleasantness about you, right? You're not being sarcastic, you're not being arrogant, you're not being haughty. Be pleasant, be likable. Have this aura around you that I may not like this individual politically or whatever, but there's something pleasant about them. And that pleasantness comes, I think, from their ability to contain all that negative emotions so that they're not shouting and yelling or talking down to people or being arrogant or saying things about where they come from and all of that. Pleasantness is something that we can exude through our countenance. And those of you who have been through therapy, who have been through counseling, one of the things that you notice in those settings is how often that pleasantness contributes to the healing process. Well, that pleasantness also contributes to leadership, to enjoying working with someone. As I go around the world and I talk to executives and I talk to people in management and others, and I ask, well, what is it that you like about this CEO? And oftentimes their main attribute is, it's not that he has all the answers and it's not that she has all the solutions. It's just how pleasant they are to get along with. And so I ask, well, what contributes to that pleasantness? Top of the list, approachability. These people are always approachable. They don't walk in or walk down the hallway and ignore everybody around them. They say good morning to everyone. They at least make eye contact. You feel like, and sometimes obviously they're so busy that you have to schedule a time when you can meet with them, but they're always approachable in some way. And I think that's one of the most valuable things that a good leader can have, is that approachability. I remember when I arrived in the Phoenix division of the FBI, a special agent in charge arrived, and the first thing he said was, I have a closed door policy. I don't want to hear from anybody. If you have a problem, go see a supervisor. And we all looked at each other like, is this a joke? And we had absolutely no respect for this individual. None. Not then and not now. 40 years later, I was talking to an agent that was with me at the time in Phoenix, and he remembers that. Is how dare you? Your job as a leader is to be approachable. Your job as a leader is to query us about what do we need and be approachable enough to that we can come to you when something goes wrong. Approachability is one of those things that must be a part of leadership. One of the best lessons that I've learned about leadership, I learned from one of the generals that I met with a few years ago. This was a 4-star general. I won't give you his name because I haven't had a chance to ask him if it's okay to talk about it. But he basically said this: a leader, especially in the military, must have 2 things. One, they must be strong. And that strong is strong as in morally, strong of character, strong of physical fitness, but even more so of mental fitness, so that you can endure anything. But then he said something that really influenced me. He said, but you must also be warm. And I thought about that. Wow, that is powerful, because young people think about military leadership as gung-ho, jumping out of helicopters, rappelling off of a mountain, doing close quarter battle. No, this is a 4-star general. I think by now he understands what true leadership means. 2 things: being strong, morally, character, and especially mentally to endure however long this takes, but having that warmth that people are willing to not just approach you and tell you what's good and what's bad, but they feel comfortable enough around you. That is hard to inculcate. You can go to a service academy, you can get some training, you can go to university, but these 2 things, the strength of mind, the strength of having that warmth, that you have to develop on your own. And I see very few people working on that. And yet, when asked, what are the 2 most important things about leadership, especially being a general? Strength and warmth. Powerful. Powerful when you think about it, that a great leader has is the ability to listen. I am always troubled by leaders who think they have to do all the talking. And what I have found is that the best leaders always listen. They listen more than they talk. Talking doesn't always solve problems. Listening garners loyalty. Listening lets others know that you value their thoughts, their thinking process, the knowledge they have or their experience. That is invaluable. I always like to hear how others will tackle this problem. And it's interesting how oftentimes they come up with better ideas than I ever thought about. I love human ingenuity, and I love the way the human mind can work to solve problems and to deal with things. So a great leader listens first and has to restrain themselves at times, because you may have enough experience where you've seen this before and you want to jump right in and say, no, let's just do it this way. I tell you, go through the process, let the other people say what they have to say, engage them, guide them if you have to a better solution, but train yourself to listen so that you will always be approachable, and obviously you're going to be far more likable. So listen more, speak less, and always remember that we are being scrutinized. Whether you call it being judged, assessed, scrutinized, people are always looking at us. They're going to look at us to see how we react to questions, how we react to circumstances, to a phone call, whatever. We are always transmitting, and we need to be aware that we are always transmitting.